Nobody expected this to happen. Millions watched the match believing it was just another ordinary football game. But behind the scenes, a shocking scandal was unfolding, one that would become one of the darkest chapters in football history. Even today, many fans still don't know the full story. Welcome back to GameBlueprint. Today, we're exploring the infamous match between Marseille and Valenciennes, a game that became synonymous with corruption, controversy, and one of football's biggest match-fixing scandals. It's a story that changed French football forever and reminded the world how fragile the integrity of the beautiful game can be. In 1993, Marseille were the dominant force in French football. Led by club president Bernard Tapie, they had built one of Europe's strongest squads and were just days away from facing AC Milan in the European Cup final. Winning that final would make Marseille the first French club ever to lift Europe's biggest trophy. Before that historic final, Marseille still had one league match to play against Valenciennes. On paper, it looked like an easy victory. But there was one major concern. Marseille couldn't afford injuries or exhausted players before the biggest game in their history. That's when everything changed. According to later investigations, Marseille midfielder Jean-Jacques idly contacted players from Valenciennes through intermediaries. The alleged proposal was simple. Marseille wanted their opponents to avoid hard tackles and make the match easier so their star players could stay fresh for the European final. One Valenciennes player, Jacques Glassmann, refused the offer immediately. Instead of accepting the money, he reported the incident to club officials. His decision would expose one of football's biggest scandals. The match itself ended with a 1-0 victory for Marseille. To most fans, nothing looked unusual. There were no obvious mistakes or suspicious moments. But appearances can be deceiving. Soon after the match, investigations began. Testimonies conflicted, evidence surfaced, and reports claimed that hidden cash had been discovered at the home of one Valenciennes player's family. What first seemed like an unbelievable accusation quickly became a national scandal. Attention soon turned toward Marseille president Bernard Tapie. As one of France's most powerful businessmen, his reputation came under intense scrutiny. Newspapers, television, and football fans across Europe followed every new development. However, the story didn't end there. Only a few days later, Marseille faced AC Milan in the European Cup final. Against one of the strongest teams in Europe, Marseille produced a disciplined performance and won 1-0 thanks to Basile Boli's famous first-half header. It should have been the greatest moment in the club's history. Instead, the victory was overshadowed by the growing corruption scandal. Although investigators found no evidence that the European final itself had been fixed, many questioned whether Marseille had crossed ethical lines to prepare for it. Eventually, Bernard Tapie and several others were convicted for their roles in the scandal. Marseille were stripped of their French league title and banned from defending their European Cup the following season. However, UEFA allowed the club to keep the European Cup because there was no evidence of wrongdoing during the final itself. The consequences were enormous. Marseille's reputation suffered, the club entered a period of decline, and French football was forced to confront serious questions about integrity and corruption. One man, however, earned worldwide respect. Jacques Glassmann, the player who refused the bribe, was later awarded FIFA's Fair Play Award for choosing honesty over money. Without his courage, the truth may never have come to light. The scandal also changed football itself. Governing bodies introduced stricter anti-corruption measures, improved investigations, and increased efforts to protect the integrity of the game. While match fixing still exists in some parts of football today, the Marseille scandal became one of the biggest lessons in the sport's history. Looking back, this wasn't just the story of one controversial match. It was a reminder that football is built on trust. Fans believe every match is fair, every goal is earned, and every victory is deserved. When that trust is broken, the entire sport suffers. More than 30 years later, the Marseille and Valenciennes scandal remains one of football's greatest cautionary tales. It proved that even the biggest clubs can face temptation, but it also showed that one honest person can make a difference. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more football stories from GameBlueprint.